A lot of episodes of Disney's new DuckTales series are focused on character-driven adventures. Fun stories that set up great jokes, but also push forward sweeping character arcs that slowly have been developing over the course of a season. But every now and then, Uncle Scrooge and his family are tasked with defending the fate of the Earth itself, embarking on a bigger adventure with dire consequences.
Gird yourselves for the most treacherous, gritty, solemn fight we have ever faced. Launchpad, fly into that rainbow.
Ooh, pretty.
Hey, just because the fate of the world hangs in the balance doesn't mean the precipice our doom hangs on the edge of can't be fun, right? In this adventure, Scrooge McDuck faces off against Jormungandr, a Norse serpent, in a battle for the fate of the universe. Every 10 years, Earth's champion takes on this serpent in a battle to decide if Ragnarok is going to come and bring about the end of the world. It's a tournament style of combat that Scrooge says is as old as the Earth itself.
Oh, it's wrestling!
This is awesome!
This is awesome!
This is Rumble for Ragnarok. Of all the fandoms I've been a part of over the years, professional wrestling just never was one of them. That was something that was popular with kids at school, but I was just never able to get interested in. For whatever reason, it just wasn't for me. I understand the basic structure well enough, and that professional wrestling isn't bound by the rules of the traditional Olympic sport, but the specifics of wrestler personas and the hype of the genre completely elude me. Luckily, Launchpad is here to help us with that.
Yeah, Jormungandr is the babyface people's champ. I watch a lot of wrestling while I fly.
Wait, while?
Now, Scrooge is going to have a professional wrestling match against Norse myth in order to decide the fate of the world. And right as that match is getting ready to begin, we find out that Scrooge has been taking on a less altruistic looking role than he normally does. Uncle Scrooge is playing the villain.
Alright, Pam!
Look at that! The miser is collecting back taxes! Scrooge is playing the role of the villainous heel.
Honestly, this is an absurd idea for an episode of DuckTales. It's completely over the top, ridiculous, bizarre, non sequitur nonsense, and I kind of love it. I mean, sure, the wrestling angle seems to come out of nowhere, and it's one of the stranger twists on mythology that DuckTales has adopted so far. But it works incredibly well. Not only is this one of the most funny episodes of DuckTales in Season 3, it also gives almost every character on the stage their own little story arc that tells us something new about them. I'm not kidding, but let's be clear about that. This is by no means a big character episode. We're not going to see any big evolution of one character or any specific turning point in the narrative that's likely to add up to a bigger moment later in the season. But it's still a story that does a lot with what it has. We get to see a more mischievous and playful side of Scrooge McDuck than we normally do, as he takes on the role of a pseudo-villain, both in the service of a greater good to save the world, but also seemingly as a guilty pleasure. It's a delight to see him completely revel in his role as the millionaire miser. And as the matches go on, Scrooge learns that he needs help from his family if he's going to win this time, forcing him to rely on Dewey and Webby to fight in his place as a tag team. But Dewey's desire to be popular and his need for approval make it hard for him to embrace his role as a wrestling villain. Dewey's not the only one questioning his identity either. Huey, emboldened by the Junior Woodchuck sports commentary badge he earned back in Season 1, is ready to help Launchpad serve as the match's announcer. But he's kinda terrible at it.
Someone called the Census Bureau! Oh!
Meanwhile, Louie knows exactly what his role in this adventure is.
Merchandising. Guess Louie knows what Louie's doing today.
Is it bad that I want all of those t-shirts he's selling? Because those are awesome.
Stop the pop! Get your Stop the Pop shirts right here! How did you know what character I'd come up with and already make t-shirts against him? I've known you my whole life. I kinda knew how this would play out.
To be fair, not every character here has a unique story arc to discover. For the most part, Webby is just sort of along for the ride, serving as the muscle in the ring that Dewey can't be, but she's loving every minute of it.
Is that a barbarian with a battle axe? They found a way to make rainbows better! This is the best day.
Webby's still plenty of fun in this episode too. although we know that she's completely capable of handling herself, in a fight or on an adventure, taking on a persona isn't really something she's used to, and it shows. It's just Webby being Webby, for better or for worse.
If you would like a fight, allow me to introduce you to this fist. Her name is Lady Haymaker, and of course, also her country cousin, the Duchess of Wailing.
All of that stuff comes together to create a genuine, super fun episode. It has a lot of action, but it's also kind of self-contained in a really fun and stress-free way. It's packed with puns and visual gags and jokes of all kinds, too. I probably laughed out loud more at this episode than any other episode in the entire series. And as someone who doesn't even like wrestling, that's awesome. This episode is universally fun and funny, and I just love it. Even better, this story does sneak in a few nice character moments on top of everything else. Maybe even a few lessons about doing the right thing, even if it isn't popular or fun. Because even though Scrooge does seem to enjoy playing the heel, he's not really doing this because he thinks wrestling is fun. He's doing it to save the Earth. And it doesn't really matter to him what the spectators think. He knows he's doing the right thing.
Doing the right thing is not always easy or popular. Not everyone is cut out to be the champion of the earth.
That's a good message, though Dewey doesn't take it well at first. At the same time, Huey is struggling with his own identity. He's supposed to be good at this. He's supposed to be the junior woodchuck, trained. He even tried to write down all the rules of wrestling to learn the sport. But that junior woodchuck training just isn't good enough.
I know we're supposed to take over for Scrooge one day, but do you ever wonder if maybe we're not cut out for it?
When the two older triplets are in doubt about who they are, it takes the youngest to talk some sense into them.
You don't have to understand something to love it. I've known you my whole life. I know how this plays out. You're a hero, so go save the world.
Ultimately, these lessons aren't heavy at all. But it's nice that they're still there. To an extent, both Dewey and Huey need to overcome how self-conscious they are and learn how to just go with the flow. Dewey needs to learn to be okay with not being the popular one and how to adapt to circumstances to do the right thing. While Huey needs to learn that sometimes it's okay to love something even if you don't understand it. Sometimes passion and enthusiasm really are enough. Which is a good lesson for people like me. I certainly don't understand anything about wrestling, but I definitely love this.
Whoa! In a completely unexpected twist, the announcer was Captain Crash this whole time! What's Jormungandr gonna do now?
As much as I love how many episodes of DuckTales dive deeper into old Disney Comics history, or spend a lot of time on character development and larger stories, in some ways, standalone fun asides like this one are the real heart of the show. It's true, DuckTales is absolutely a show that outstretches its basic premise, delivering big themes and stories that are satisfying for longtime Disney Duck fans and Disney nerds. But before it's a vehicle for the fans in that community, it's a cartoon, a kids show designed for a young audience, and that needs to be inherently fun. This episode is all of that, while still keeping hints of what makes the larger series great. Knowing it was about wrestling, I didn't expect a lot from this one, but it wound up being one of my favorite episodes of the series. And while I know that's not as in-depth as some of my regular reviews, I think it's important to touch on the lighter ones as well. We can definitely love this episode for having those hints that make it a little deeper, pushing forward Huey's story a little bit, touching on how far Louie has come as a businessman, and even calling back to Dewey's over self-confidence and need to feel like a popular hero. We can even appreciate how it makes Scrooge's character a little deeper, or visits one of Launchpad's hobbies, or just shows us Webby being Webby. All of those moments in this episode that make it a little bit deeper and connected to the larger lore are great. But sometimes it's just nice to have an episode be inherently fun. And that's what this is. And that's great. And with that, we're done for this week. And finally, caught up with all of the episodes DuckTales aired right before its mid-season 2020 break. Next, we'll be taking a look at the story-heavy episodes that will lead into the holiday episodes and the season finale. And now that we're caught up, why not take a minute to like and subscribe or leave a comment on what you think you would like to see at the end of Season 3. That's the kind of stuff YouTube likes to see on new videos, and it helps the channel grow. Either way, thanks for watching, and as always, take it easy, Internet.